What's up, everybody? Hopefully, you're having a wonderful day. What we are going to go through today is buy or invest. And this time around, we're going to have Hololive trial decks. I'm not doing the booster box, it's going to be too much information for everybody to absorb. So, I'm not going to go through that. What this video is looking to do is this is my thought process on if I should buy or invest in a certain set or product. And the answer is for both booster boxes and trial decks is yes, just yes. Don't even think about it, just yes. If you have the money, buy some extra. That's where I'm going. You may be wondering why I'm even going to do this video then. It's because there's new people coming into the game. New people. Like I just did 2 videos on intros to this, like what the trial deck actually is and booster box. Why I'm doing this is because there's a certain budget that everybody has. If you think about this, there are 7 trial decks staring you in the face. And 7 times 20 is 140 minimum that you're going to have to pay for this. That's not even including taxes or shipping or anything like that. So they're fairly expensive. At the same time, people might not have the budget for it. They might not like a certain generation. So what we're going to do here is go through my thoughts on each of the trial decks and at the same time ranking them. I'm not saying any VTuber is better than the other one. Really, we're looking at pure number here. And because of all the information I'm going to hit you with, this is actually how I felt after doing this. I really wanted to just say, you know what? Just buy all the trial decks and go from there. Let fate or destiny sort it all out. But what we have here then is I'm going to do this a little bit differently. I'm going to summarize all my thoughts next. After that, I'm going to go through all the numbers. For anybody that wants to see numbers and all that stuff, I'm going to show you all the details that go with this. But this is where we are going, okay? So here we go. Summary of everything. Trial deck should be purchased for the gen you want. There is no changing that at all. If you want number 1, you like gamers, you like number 5, I suggest you buy that if you have the money for it, right? If you have the $20 and all that, I would definitely buy that. If you do not have the budget for that, like if you wanted number 1 and 2 and you couldn't afford having both like new trial decks, what you can do is you can buy the single cards. And when I mean the single cards, I mean the trial deck non-shiny version of the cards. The math works out that if you wanted just to have one card that isn't shiny, not the SRs, not the triple rares, that you could definitely buy it that way, right? Like with Gen 0, 3, 5, and Gamers, the math works it where you definitely want to buy the trial deck versus buying the singles, right? You have the SR, you have the triple rares. It only makes sense to actually do that. There's another option where, if you haven't heard of this before, basically what people do with these boxes, they try to actually find the signed card in there. There was on that video of the trial deck, I had a screenshot, or I made a diagram of like how these things work. 2 out of 48 of the trial decks will have signed cards in them. And what people will do is they'll keep opening these trial decks until they find it. And normally they'll put it on eBay, or they might even also put it on TCG Player, wherever else on Facebook that says this is opened and I'm selling it for like $10. That's another option. You can find it out there because people will be doing that with this set. And they have to sell those decks because that's how they get some of their money back. So realistically, there are many options for you, but if you're not going to go the route of buying that open trial deck, then you're going to want to buy singles for the ones that I told you about, and then trial decks for Gen 0, 3, 5, and gamers, okay? Overall, Gen 0 is the overall best value for trial decks and signs, so I'll go over later, after this actually, all the different numbers that go into that, like why this is the best value and why that signed is the highest. Well, the signed is easy. I just took the average of all those numbers and that's what popped out. So Gen 0 is actually your best trial deck from what I'm seeing dollar-wise. Gen 1 trial deck is lower in value. It's not worth as much, but it has the second best signed average. And the reason why I bring this up, why I'm labeling these this way, is because some people are going to attempt to buy the or get the sign card and resell it. So Gen 1 would be your second best one for that. Gen 2, it's lower end of value for trial deck and sign cards. So when you're thinking about which ones aren't as good, that would be Gen 2. Gamers, it's a high trial deck value and low end of the signed cards. So not as great. Gen 3 in the middle. So if you want a middle, if you want one that'll just on average do well, we got this one in the middle for trial deck value and signed. Gen 4, lower in trial deck value, high sign card value. So again, that's almost like Gen 1 in that way. If you're looking to gamble, if you're looking to hit that high card, then Gen 4 will be what you're looking for. And lastly, Gen 5, we got a high trial deck value and low signature. It's, I believe, the lowest one out of all 7 of these trial decks. And the reason for some of these is, again, you have to think of how many were actually open, how much exists. When you think about the SPs, you would think that the amount of VTubers would matter because obviously there's 2 sign cards inside of a case. Remember when I said 2 out of 48? If there is 5 people, then that should be less amount of sign cards out there. But that's not necessarily true. It really depended on the popularity of the gen, how much product actually got opened. And you could probably see that when you take a look at like Gen 3, when you take a look at some of the ones that you wouldn't have guessed that would have been lower end of trial deck. But really, that was probably because of the popularity, how much it got opened. So I know this is all a lot to take in. That's why I'm doing this first versus showing the numbers. Again, if you really just wanted to end it, just pick it, you would just buy the trial decks of the gen you want, or just buy all of them. This is a lot of thinking going into it, but I'm going to show you the numbers now, so bear with me. So we got Gen 0, just a recap of what we got going on here is 4 VTubers, triple rares, 14 of them, and 4 SPs. I'm going to show you the methodology I went through this. So what I actually did way back in the day, this is as of October 1st, 2021. It's crazy time that October 1st, 2021. Man, okay, so what you're seeing here is I took photos of everything, screenshots from Nova TCG. Normally I use Yuyute, I use Nova TCG this time around. And what we have here are your SP cards for the trial deck. And then what I did from there was I did a lot of math, right? There's a lot of stuff happening here. What I did was I took these SPs, these prices, and I compared them to what it is today. And what you're going to see is there's some that are out of stock, so I had to account for that. But the other side, they all were the same price or higher versus what happened on October 1st. So because of that, like all these cards went up. After they initially came out, they were low, but as time has gone by, it is March, they all went up in price. So that could have shocked people or not. I mean, it makes sense to me. That's how it always happens. Like it starts out low, potentially low, or drops a bit, and then as time goes on, people buy it up, it goes. But what happened was if there was anything that was sold out, what I actually did was I went to Yuyute and I took a look to see if Yuyute actually had them in stock. The prices were exactly the same. They must have, I don't know who copied off of who or whatever. It doesn't matter if it's a copy or anything like that. But the prices were exactly the same. The amount of sellouts were pretty much the same. What I did was on this actual pricing sheet here, what we got is we got anything that is sold out with the plus mark. So you have pluses here for anything that is actually sold out. And the reason I did that is because I want you to know this is, even though this is the price that's listed on the website, it technically could be higher because if it's sold out at $147.99, what is the real price now? It's not, it could be $147.99 or it could be $250 just because there's none left. And if there's someone actually searching for it, now they're gonna have to pay a higher price. So what I did as part of my math was I rounded all these up. Like I didn't like how it's like 797 or 147. So I rounded it up to the nearest 50 or 100. So this became 800. This became 150. Anything sold out, I added an additional $100 to. So this in the end became 250. This thing became 900. Suisei became 900. Okay. So that is my methodology on all of this. And that's why you have this sheet with all these actual calculations on here looking the way it is, and the numbers are different than what you see right now. So, okay, there we are. So what I did then was I took all the child deck cards, added them all up. I put all the SPs here, and you can see the pricing on them. They're pretty pricey, but you know, when it comes to averages, the hard part with averages is there's going to be like some outliers. And this one you can see there's a massive extremes. Sora 150 sold out, so technically 250. Roboco, she is 130, which I rounded up. I made 230 because it's sold out. Miko 600, Suisei 900 with the additional, you know, sold out kind of deal. So you could see, like, even though this one has the highest average of sign card SP, there is a massive kind of like jump in between like the two numbers. We have the higher end 900 where you have the low end at the 200 something. So it is a drastic kind of thing. So when you open and you want the sign card, you're definitely looking for Suisei. Like that, no doubt you're looking for Suisei. Here we go with Gen 0. So here's some calculations. So TD, I need to explain this a little bit. The trial deck, what I did here was I added up every single trial deck card, not including SR or triple rare. And the trial deck is literally one copy of each card. You're gonna be saying like, well, trial decks have more than one copy. Yeah, I know that. Really, there's 2 to 4 copies in the actual trial deck. But the reason why I did this was, remember when I said about people buying single cards, buying a single deck, uh, buying single copy of the trial deck cards? I wanted to see if there was any one of them that if people didn't have the budget, that they can go and just buy the single cards. That's where I arrived at this whole um, Gen 1, Gen 2, Gen 4. You're probably okay if you just wanted one card to just go ahead and do it that way. So I wanted to have an avenue where people can see that, you know, buying a single card is viable versus buying the actual trial deck itself. Like if you couldn't afford it, because you might want multiple decks and you just can't swing that kind of dollars. And this is an expensive set, so we're not even talking about booster boxes. So what we got here is trial deck 1622, SR 150, triple rare average 356, totaled out to be 2128. The triple rare average, there is 14 triple rares in this thing. So what I had to do is, because, you know, we don't know what you're going to get, I averaged them all together, and that's what I got, 356. The SP average is 495, so pretty huge. Again, Suisei is the one you're going to be looking for. This is how this video is going to go. If this is too much, then skip to the end with the giant chart with all the stuff in it. We got Gen 1 here, 12 triple rares this time because there are 5 VTubers and 5 SPs. So here's your big ones. We got Fubuki, who is $800, not sold out. And as you can see with this one, there is not too many that, well, actually, there's 2 that sold out. And yeah, that's really all to it. I mean, Fubuki, that wasn't really surprising me. The fun part of me doing this was I got to see I got to look at the cards themselves before they actually had prices on them and see which one I thought would be the most expensive of the actual cards. And for the most part, I think I was right. I was probably right 5 out of 7 times. So it's pretty cool to see that. So Fubuki, again, Gen 1. Overall, this is why I said the trial deck could be bought singly. You see that it is 1142 for single cards. You definitely can do that, right? Like a new trial deck, 20 bucks without taxes, without shipping, if you need to actually buy that. And then if you have open ones that you could probably get for 10-ish 12, 13, $14, you could buy an open trial deck. But if you just want to get single cards, this is why I say that 1142 seems pretty far down there that you can actually just pick them. But really, like if you add up the total, like the SR, the triple rare, that's why I'm like, you're better off just buying the trial deck if you can afford it. Like it makes sense to do that, because if I actually add in all of the trial deck cards, it wouldn't be 1152. It would definitely take you over that $20 mark. But the difference between, an additional $10 means you can buy another trial deck or a card of a VTuber from the booster box that you wanted. That's pretty huge to some people, and I'm not going to ignore that. SP average low on the low end, as I showed, so 356. Okay, Gen 2. Gen 2. Gen 2 didn't have giant ones, and it definitely weren't sold out. Like you can see Aqua here is your big one, $600. And we do have one sold out at the end, but realistically, this doesn't look like it's one of the bigger ones. This is one of the weaker trial decks. I believe this is one of the ones where I said that, yeah, that you can buy singles. Definitely 871 is where that trial deck price is going to be. SR 150, triple rare average 391, so total 1412. You could see why singles would be a good pickup here in this case. This is only the case of an extreme amount of time, right? Like, because you're not gonna go out there on day one and buy trial deck singles. They're gonna be more expensive than they were if you'd wait like a month, 2 months, something like that. So trial decks is definitely where it should be, but Gen 2, if you need to buy singles, this would be the one to do it on. Average for SPs is 410. We got Aqua being our leader here of Gen 2. Gamers, this one threw me off. I would have never totally guessed that this is actually a tie. It's a tie. The reason I got to a tie was because we got Fubuki here, but she is sold out. So I rounded her up to $600. Korone, 600, but not sold out. So technically, it depends on how much you give of sold out allowance. Where I put it 100 plus takes it to 600. If that's too high for you, then really Korone is your winner. What I have is a tie. Okayu I thought would have done slightly better, but $300, and Mio sold out as well, so she's 400. So gamers overall, pretty high price trial deck. If you could see this is amazing. 1328. The SR, I almost even questioned that. I see 499. Maybe that could be a little bit lower. Triple rare average 470. That total right there. See 2297. That's not even including all the trial deck cards I mentioned. That was just one of each card. So if you were to add that in, you might as well buy the trial deck. At that point, you're buying the trial deck. Don't even bother with buying singles. For gamers, buy the trial deck if you want it. SP average 475, pretty huge. And again, we have a tie when it comes to the SP. And overall, like when you look at this one, the average, like the difference in the amounts between the SPs, they're pretty close together. Like we have a 300, 400, 600, 600. So you don't have that giant variance between the actual different individual sign cards. Okay, Gen 3. Gen 3. Gen 3 I thought was going to do way, way better. So I know we have Rushia, which with recent happenings, definitely some of these cards have gone up, or at least been being bought more frequently. And then the next big one would be Noel. I have Noel at 500, but she sold out, so that would be 600. So they got some pretty high amounts of cards here, right? Like sign cards. There is definitely some value there. And Flare is our lowest at 200. Overall, a deck that you're gonna want to buy, total 1992 of just singles, and then SP 460. So this was your mid-range deck that, like, over the 7, this is your middle one, and it definitely, like, the numbers show it here. Gen 4, I know we got 2 left. It's a lot. I'm telling you, this is a lot. It's just easy to say just buy the trial deck of the one you want. Okay. Okay, but for the gamblers out there, Gen 4 is where you want to be at because Gen 4 total sellout on all of the SPs. And your lowest would have been Luna at 250, which again I made 350, but these could be anything. Like since they're all completely sold out, was this deck really bought? Was this whatever? You tell me because look, the trial deck price 896 on the singles. This is one of those ones where you could definitely buy the singles and get away with it. But if you want that shot at getting the SP, the high dollar SPs, then you're going to want to buy Gen 4. So SP average 480 Kanata over here is 600, $700 with my bump up. And lastly, Gen 5. Gen 5 was definitely your weakest one. Definitely not the greatest of art for reasons because they were new. And thanks again for Rosamoon for actually telling me all this. There was not enough time to get some art on here because they were the newer of the generations. So you could see here the not so high. I mean, your highest one is Lamy at 450. If I mispronounced the name, I apologize. And the other one that sold out was Botan, and she would be 230 in my eyes. Okay, this one would be like a good if you just wanted the trial deck. You didn't really care about getting the SP. You're not in it to resell anything. This is a deck you buy. You can see overall $21.17 is what it comes out to be. SP average, really bad, $240. And you can see it reflects here. It's the lowest of all the different ones. So before I skip to the summary, I'm going to show you, this is what it looked like. That's why I showed you that beam, because this is what it looks like in chart form. The top one is the rankings of all the different ones. Below is what we have number wise. So you could see like you could take a screenshot of this and view this on your own time to figure out where you want to go from here. If I had to throw anything out, I would throw out the SR row. Not really all that needed. You get one per trial deck. It's guaranteed. So and like you know what, that really shouldn't add in if you buy a trial deck. The triple rare average, that's kind of important. You're gonna get one of them in there. There's some variance between like triple rare highs and all that. So you could see how this lines up, right? Like this triple rare high, there was a there's a $10 one, $10 one, there's a $15 one in Gen 5. So there is a bit of like, and look where the average is. It's at 437 and the high is $15. So there are some definite low ones in that average. So I would technically probably where I had this chart was I threw out the SRs, I threw out the triple rares, and I ended up with trial deck totals. But I figured I should just throw this in here and at the beginning give you that long disclaimer about this video is going to hurt you. It hurt me. It hurt me in many ways. So SP average, as you can see here, Gen 0 is your big one. We got Gen 4 and gamers. So this is where I said Gen 4, it's a lower value trial deck, but if you're in it to gamble, then that would be a nicer pickup. But even then, the highest was $700 on the SP, where Gen 0, the highest SP is $900. So that is Gen 0, I think, is one of those ones that cannot be overlooked. It is your all-around kind of best trial deck that's out there. Again, that's assuming that you can sell everything, right? With the trial deck, it's 1622. Realistically, why I put these numbers out here is more for the people that were looking to buy just a single deck to see again if should I buy single cards or should I buy the trial deck itself. This is why this really exists here. Selling trial deck cards, I've never done it. I've never sold single cards, but I can imagine just looking at the numbers of what I see on TCG players, selling trial decks is pretty hard. Trial deck individual cards is pretty hard if they're not the highly sought after one. Now, people will appreciate if you buy the singles of them, but I just throw out the numbers here to show you if it's worth it. I think, honestly, end of the day, you should be buying the trial decks for any of these that you want, But for the budget conscious, like the people that need to watch how much they spend, there are some options if you can't afford it. I think the other option then is going a one step further and saying, you know what, I can't afford a trial deck, just get me the actual individual VTubers, right? Like you can always do that. You can go one step further, and if you like Rushia, right, just go and buy individual Rushia cards. I'll go out to Nova TCG or the Weiss Schwarz Japan site to see what cards exist for your actual VTuber that you want. That way you can just single them out, right? Because if you do that, that's way easier. See 150, 30 cents, 50 cents, $1, and then you're not spending $20, $10 or something like that. Maybe you'll end up spending six, which I know it still sounds like you you might be saying, oh, you're splitting hairs at this point. I'm like, no, because this is no joke. I remember I was writing to a person yesterday. He's in the comic books. Like he's on YouTube. You can find him, and in the comments, let me just find his name. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna find his name real quick. And I apologize for not knowing your name right. All About Comics. So I just wanted to make sure to get your name completely right. All About Comics, and he was like, in YouTube, he's talking about All About Comics. That's what it is. And I remember back when I was younger, we didn't have a lot of money. Like I worked a lot when I was little, and I'm talking about little. This is big B real life thing. Like I was helping my parents out. We were working there since I was 6 at the family business, all the way up to I was like 16. We were doing that job, like helping out my parents, and we didn't have a lot of money. It was definitely one of those ones where I learned a lot, and I guess I got my work ethic from my parents for sure. So that my parents taught me a lot, and I cannot be more thankful for that. But we didn't have a lot when we were little, and like comic books back in the day were really expensive, right? Like I tried buying, like you may be saying, well, comic books are like $3, and it's like $3 was a lot for us. But to buy a continuing series week after week, that was never going to happen. I bought like one or two like every other month or something, and that's why this chart here. You may be saying like you may be saying that, you know what, people can afford this, and I'm like, no, I remember back in the day, because who watches Hololive? There could be younger people, older people, people that are just coming out of college that may not have a ton of money. So I'm going through this realistically because I remember those times where I didn't have a lot. So, $20 may not seem a lot to some of us, but it could be a lot to some other people. And all you want to do is get a card for the VTuber that you love. Because this is the thing that people miss. People go, I don't see why people like VTubers or things like that, or there's such of a feeling around them. And I think it's because of you spending time and sharing moments with each other. That's what it is. And you could say that to anything, right? Like bands will make you do that. It'll evoke some kind of emotion from you, depending on what kind of band it actually is. It could be country, it could be I guess hip hop, it could be anything like that. And then you have these VTubers, right? They every day or every other day or how often they stream, they sit here, they joke with you and all of that, and you have these lasting nostalgic kind of feels with it, with them. And this is why Hololive or any other VTuber has that kind of a following. That you have those moments that you share with each other, and you're not gonna let go of them, and you'll remember them for the rest of your life. So that's why it's heartbreaking when some of these actually graduate, because people are like, man, I spent like 2 3 years with these people, and they're gone because of some stupid reason or whatever reason. I'm not talking about anything particular. I'm talking about just in general, like people graduate, and that's the feelings that are around there. Or maybe that person just wanted to step away. So that is why I wanted to show all these different numbers. As you can see here, definitely Gen 0. It's got a lot of ones and twos in the column. And if you just strip away the SR and the triple rare average, you can see why this is pretty huge. Overall, with the summary that I have here, uh, there you go. If you want to buy non-shiny singles Gen 1, 2, 4, if you really trial decks you should buy for 0, 3, 5 and gamers. Overall, I say you should just buy the one you want and in trial deck form. That gives you the shiny cards, the SR, the triple rare, and a possibility of that SP. Um, as you can see, if you want to gamble, you can definitely do that. Make sure you buy from someone reputable with the whole mapping thing. That's 100% going to happen with this one. I say that because the other day, I saw Mishoku Tensei. I know for a fact this person pulled the trial deck Roxy, and then you could see on TCG Player that they were selling single trial decks at the like 30, 35, $36 mark. Again, I'm not going to say who that is. Booster Box. It's hilarious because, again, same thing happened. Different person. This time around, if you actually looked, you could see they actually pulled an SSP. They have it up on TCG Player, and they're selling booster boxes. So obviously, there could still be an SP in one of those boxes that person is selling, but there is, no SSP chance, which um, it stinks. And it's not like that they had another case. Like they weren't selling another case. They were selling like a really small amount of booster boxes, which leads me to believe they think that it's not in there, or they just don't want to open anymore. But my thought again is really they pulled the SSP and they know there's nothing left, so that's what they're going to do. These trial decks are going to be the same way. Definitely, if you're going to buy it from someone reputable. Always check if they sell singles or if they have signed cards for sale. They can always just give it to somebody else and have them sell it. But that's really going the distance here. But it could happen. I don't be overly paranoid, but at the same time, make sure to check people out before you do buy booster boxes or trial decks, especially in this case. Because as you see, the dollar amounts for the SPs are definitely high enough that there's going to be people that want to actually do that. Okay, so if you have any other questions, I know this was a lot. This is a lot to take in and that's why I said it hurt me. If it hurt me, it's definitely going to hurt you. But I did actually have a lot of fun with it. I got to know a bit about the VTubers a little bit more, and then actually look at their cards and my own instincts on where these numbers would actually land on. So again, if you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. Email me. 24 to 48 hours is how long it'll take for me to get back to you. And as always, have fun, be happy, and don't spend anything outside of your budget. Have a good one.